Hello everyone, good evening. We welcome you to the CII SummitFX from 1st to 4th of September. We are starting with the session on Indian Indie Shorts, the new force. The moderators are Mr. R.K. Chand, Head of Studio, Technicolor Film and Episodic VFX Mumbai at Trace VFX. And we also have Mr. Prasenjit Ganguly, Animation Film Designer. Over to you, sir.
Am I on? Okay, thanks. Thanks, Karan. Thank you, Team CII, for arranging the last 3 days. And I'd like to thank all my fellow panelists who have joined us today in this session for this lovely topic of Indian Indie Shorts, the new force. So just give me a moment so that I can share my screen and I can introduce each of my panelists to the audience. Okay, Indian Indie Shorts, is it the new force? The question might or might not be answered right now, but I'm very sure that the audience would believe that they can get some answers around why indie shorts are made, how it is made, what and how it can help breed and develop the animation ecosystem in India. I have with me today a few eminent speakers. I have E. Suresh, director and founder of Studio Extras Productions. I have Bimal Poddar, who is the founder and creative director of Fairy Cows Animation Studio. I have Upmanyu Bhattacharya, co-founder Ghost Animation Studio. Samir Modi, managing director Pocket Films. And last but not the least, Prasenjit Ganguly, animation film designer. A little bit of brief about each of them. I don't know how many of you guys would not know E. Suresh in the audience of Indian animation shorts filmmaking, but here is just a small brief. Suresh has been one of the most prolific filmmakers in various formats and styles and designs of animation. He graduated from the prestigious NID Ahmedabad and has over 2 decades of experience creating more than 400 films in 2D, 3D, and clay or stop motion in advertising films in India. He started at a time when animation was relatively a new medium to tell stories in the country as compared to the West. With over 200 national and international awards to his credit, Suresh runs a versatile studio focusing on original content creation called Studio Exoris in Mumbai. Welcome, X. Welcome, Suresh, to the panel.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you. Looking forward.
Next, we have Bimal Poddar. Bimal is the creative director and founder of Fairy Cows Animation. His film Radha is an ode to the ones who wait for us back at home and will continue to do so with love. The story weaves an invisible bond between two people similar to that of Radha's wait and Biraha of Krishna after he left her in Vrindavan according to the Hindu mythology. I hope we'll get a glimpse of each of your films, Bimal, and some of your work, Suresh. Next is Upmanyu. Recent graduate, I think the fresh in the breed of the filmmakers in here, but has been getting a lot of accolades for his film Wade. And he's one of the 6 partners at Ghost Animation and is the co-director for the short film Wade, which won an award in the prestigious Annecy Film Festival this year. Next, we have Prasenjit Ganguly. Prasenjit is an award-winning animated filmmaker. He's a feature film writer and a director, show creator, and a mentor for many, many students and filmmakers around India. He regularly conducts courses for students at several film, design, and animation schools. Last but not the least, we have Samir. Samir Modi is the founder of Pocket Films. It's the #1 distributor of short films in the country. And Pocket Films distribute short films across formats and platforms, providing global reach to films while also sharing revenues with the creator. So with that, we come to the topic of Indian indie shorts, the new force. The idea basically is with the premise that shorts have always been the base of creative foundation for animated films. We would like to put across to the panel to begin with, why do you make short films? Suresh, Vimal, Prasanjit, Upmanyu, and Samir, who gave you the crazy idea to distribute and like really commercialize short films? Should we start with Suresh?
Yeah. Yes, I think pure foolishness. That's why you make short films. That like it's. I think when we are in the mode of sustaining and surviving, something that you feel something that is missing in this whole thing, and that is where you feel like doing something so expressive, something that is not constrained by anybody than the creative standards that you set out and the storytelling standards that you set out. That's when we all start to think about short films, which is something that we don't want to like really, I mean, as against Samir's business thing, we are not looking at making money out of it really, but we want it to be reached out to maximum people, definitely. And more like-minded people. It doesn't matter if a short film is not loved by many or it doesn't have many million views, but if there are few people who love it and who adore it, and that is the biggest reward for short filmmakers. And for us, we are always working on commercials. We are always working on films which have a purpose of say, I mean, in the advertising industry specifically, you need to like send a message, sell a product. There is a purpose to our communication, and so we enjoy that too. But we felt that eventually we've done enough to change the canvas of animation in advertising. So we have to do something in the field of animation so that more people get accept animation as a storytelling medium. So that is where way back in 2008, 7, 8, we started working on our short films. We felt we can't fund it and sustain it at one go. So we kept it on the background, and that's how we started this movement of short films. And we felt it is a very rewarding experience, especially with some of our short films. I mean, having traveled to more than 100 to 200 film festivals around the world. I mean, these films have like really made us and also Indian animation to be perceived as, okay, these guys can also tell stories. Because in the world, when I jury at various festivals, there are more than 2,000 animation films made every single year. Why in a country of billion people, why we have only like 3 or 4 animated short film coming out? There is a dearth of content, and we feel at least as a responsible company that has that has the strength to make some changes. We should do it on our own, inspire more people to do films which are not really looking at returns, so that our Indian animation's artistry is changes. That is very important for the commercial cinema. The artistic bed that is created with short films is the inspiration for commercial cinema. I mean, however fertile and dense and condensed that ground is for short films to grow. I mean, feature films and commercial films can grow very easily on that fertility. So artistic cinema always have to continuously happen. It has to keep on evolving to keep that fertility going. Otherwise, we will only have pleasing films for people to masses to be happy. That's when animation short films will be called as cartoons. Unfortunately, that is the situation in India. Mostly animation films are cartoons first. So to change that definition, that animation is not just cartoons, it's also a responsibility of us as filmmakers to create shorts. Yeah, that's my.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, when my daughter watched Tokri,
Huh.
her perception about animation changed quite a bit, and she had I made them watch the trailers of Wade, Radha. She watched Tokri,
Right.
and she is introduced, for a new genre of animation beyond what I have been doing for years as just commercial cartoons.
Right.
So it's got quite interesting. Prasenjit, do you think from your interaction with students and the base where it all starts, why do you think we make films first? And you can maybe just add, where do we lack for that drive for the number of films of different styles not coming from the schools as many as we would want?
Right. Well, short films have always been our stepping stones, like the first stepping stones when we are learning about this medium. All of us come from the big formats. We are watching Bollywood, we are watching the Hollywood blockbusters, or even we are watching feature-length films at festivals. But once we start learning about filmmaking and animation, and that, I think one of the biggest, rewards that, or rather the best features of having studied at a place like NID was that you have to make a film. So the end, it's not what the exercises you do. You're not making a show reel. You're not making a show reel of the exercises you've done, but you have to make a film, not just one film. We ended up making 4 short films as students. So that is the stepping stone. That is the first time you realize that, okay, there are visuals, there are thoughts, there are imaginations, there are colors, there are puppets, there are models, there is CGI, whatever. But together, cohesively, they can come out and tell a story convincingly to an audience. And to an audience here matters a lot, because you're not just making something just for your satisfaction, but it needs to communicate. It needs to go to the other side. And I often share this experience that, the first time I screened my graduation film in front of an audience in 1999 in a film festival at the Film South Asia. And that becomes a life-changing experience when you have an audience of 1,000 people standing up on their feet and acknowledging the fact that whatever they've seen have touched them somewhere deep inside. So it needs to move you. It needs to move you. That's what a short film does. It's a very concentrated capsule of time within which you get affected, right? So that's been always a stepping stone. And in fact, I've met Bimal here, who was working on a short film when we first met at NID. Eeks was working on his film on humors, if I remember, and we did some crazy voices.
Yeah.
So that whole Vaibhav and us, yeah. So, and Upamanyu I have been with him since he was also a short filmmaker at the age of 8, if I'm not mistaken. And he was he was a director at a cartoon filmmaking workshop organized by Cartoon Network. And so he was also directing. He was a director that time. So, this whole gamut of having people come on board and make films is a celebration of sorts. And it's feasible. You can make it. It's intimidating when you know that kabhi khatam nahi hone wala hai. So, but you know that it's compact enough to ride over it. And I think the second thing that you wanted to know, the point you made was, are we getting enough variety out of these schools? Look, we have to understand that the way we had started getting into animation film design, the programs were called animation film design. So you had animation, you had film, and you had design. And now it's no longer restricted to film, because there was a time when we were students, young people, and we had to make a film. But now people have so many things through which they would like to express their way of storytelling. So I think there has been a little bit of a dilution of concentration in certain areas and certain focus from film schools themselves to say, yeah, this is important, you have to make a film. On the other hand, I think what we are getting to see Wade here today, which is a thrill, because even certain student films we sometimes encounter within what they've done. And I'm talking about the IITs, I'm talking about the NIDs, I'm talking about all the other film schools around in India. The stuff they come out with is just so dazzling. So, the youth, they are thinking in different ways. They are getting so much of inputs from the world around in terms of communication and medium and art. Those who are gripping onto it, those who are catching on to the beauty of it, I think they are investing that into short films. So I think we are in very good shape right now, and I can only look forward to something getting better every day.
Bimal, why did you make Radha, and since when have you been making films? Please tell us a little bit about why you made films and a bit about Radha.
Yeah, I think Suresh, PJ, they have always been inspiration for us. I mean, from the student, like when I was student. So I think Suresh had given all the brief. What is the idea? Like, what is the reason behind making the short film? So I think this is a format where we can easily work on. I mean, whatever is available. I mean, you just have to look for a good storyline, and within short duration, you can do a lot of experiment, and also, treatment wise, also technique wise, and creatively how we can create the thing, like, basically. So I think that's, I mean, we wish to make a longer format, but again, depend on the, availability of your resources, because anyway, we are a very boutique studio, and, we are working for our, sustaining for, this Radha has taken 3 years of time to, finish the work. So, I mean, during these years, this entire time, we'll have to survive. So we work on commercial projects. Then again, whenever I get time, we just again get back to our own work for the film or whatever, and some treatment, if anything, we develop. So yeah, this short format is always, economically, it's help us to produce and experiment our thoughts, basically.
Yeah.
I think we'll come to that part which you mentioned, that we work, some work for bread and butter, some work for back on the burner, which keeps doing. I think the aim for the session is to try and figure out how can there be an ecosystem where if someone wants to make a short film, how can it not be only and only based on when you are free?
Right.
How can we build a platform or a way or a system through which, the same way there is a boom in short film making and live action now, we can at least fuel that. I'll come to Upmanyu, and then I'll come to Samir around you to know more about how short films were not really regarded as high as they are now in live action, and how that boom happened, and are we at that crux where 5 years back live action short films were, and what we did. Upmanyu, a little bit about yourself. I mean, I think 8-year-old, is that what you just said? My daughter is 9 now. I can tell her that.
He makes it sound a lot more professional than it was, but it's just like almost like sitting with a coloring book and saying, I want to make this. Like that's about it. Like that's the degree of seriousness with which we worked back then. But still, it was like the exposure with PJ's workshop back then was probably a very significant step in thinking that, okay, this is a viable thing that grown people do for a living. So all of this animation that we see comes from somewhere. So okay, let's try figuring it out in some way. So but otherwise, yeah, I went to NID, same as most of these fellows. And after graduating, if one were to come to why we started making short films, I think for us, because we ended up making a bunch of short films together in the studio at the same time, it was largely because we had something that we were interested in, more than anything else, like more than the intention of making a film, more than the intention of putting something out there. We will do this, we will whatever. But all of us individually had something that we were very concerned about or very interested in, and something that we wanted to grab people by the shoulders and say that, like, let's say climate change is coming to Kolkata. Like, it's a thought that starts. And the way we talk, the way we discuss in day-to-day life, the way we transmit our stories is usually anecdotal. It's usually short format in real life, in the way we normally interact as well. So it's just a format that comes to you naturally. Like, you can tell a story in 5 minutes because that's what you do every single day. Like, when someone asks you how your day was, you put it in a 5-minute, 2-minute thing. So that's it's when you think of a longer format, that's when you have to force yourself into thinking of how to compress timelines or expand timelines into a 1.5 hour format. But short things come to us very spontaneously. So if you have something you're interested in and you want to make something around it, it's a very natural format to choose. So that's why we do it, really.
So how did it feel at knowing about the Annecy thing? Unfortunately, it was all online this year, right? And it was
That's
not
fine.
offline.
That's fine. I mean, it's,
Suresh is smiling because he knows exactly, what we're saying, that, he's been there enough and won it for so many times. But how does it feel winning at Annecy? And is this your first film? And in the first film,
yeah, this is my first film. I never finished my graduation project, so this was my this was the first.
I couldn't believe initially that it was done in India with the amount of the fluidity hand draw
Oh, sweet. Thanks a lot.
was there. So
Yeah, but
congrats.
thank you. Yeah.
Uh, Samir, will come to you. I heard from all animation filmmakers around, the returns from a film need not be only the money or commercial. Return from the film might also be the reach. And by default, like live action filmmakers, I think not everyone is as exposed as Suresh has been through that journey since 2008 till now to know how to send your short film off to multiple films, film festivals, multiple distribution channels, so that it gains more eyeballs and many people can see. So let's start first with why short films platform? What made you decide that you would do this? Was it as crazy as Suresh said that you need to be crazy to be making short films? And how has the journey been when maybe the short film making was not as lucrative to as it is now, if it is lucrative?
That's a big if. But see, very typically when we started off, I give a bit of history. We started off as a company which was more into placing people with the media industry, media and television industry, and as somebody who was just speaking to potential candidates every day, one thing that really struck me then was almost everyone that I interviewed would say that they had some association with a short film, either as a director, either as a editor or a cinematographer or something. And I mean, I was like, okay, great, but then what do you do with these films? And some said that we would send it to festivals. When most said it is our showreel, we show it to people when we want to, take a job or showcase that how we can actually do some work in the film industry. And I was just wondering, there is so much content and so much potential talent that has already gone into it, which is not being exposed to people. And that was the time when YouTube was coming into India, and I just kind of, saw an opportunity over there. And I thought, why not take these films and give them a platform, which is YouTube? And let's see, we'll figure a way out. We knew that some money could be made on YouTube. So we said, by all means, let's just start. Let's see what happens. And the common question that I was asked by many people, including filmmakers, is that how much do I have to pay you to get my film on your platform?
Wow.
And I used to wonder why, because I said, I'm trying to create something out of your work. So as a policy from the very beginning, we had thought that you are the creative people. We are giving you the reach and the monetization. So we will have a revenue sharing model. But they just could not believe that somebody was crazy enough to want to distribute their films first, take their films to the audience, and then also pay them. And in fact, some of the industry guys have actually told me that I was a certified nut to even try to do that in India. Distribute films and then also share revenues with the filmmakers. But I think that's a policy that we followed from then till now. And we are very happy about the fact. So, it was just our way of saying that if there is so much talent available, we should give that talent an outlet. And as a company which is in the media space, we wanted to be that platform. We saw that gap and we wanted to bridge that. And very realistically, also many people told us, you should distribute feature films, you will make more money. So absolutely. But then there are all these big studios which are already, producing and distributing feature films. So what is the point of getting into competition with those same guys who have A, that content, B, that deep pockets to sustain this? Instead, let me focus with this talented bunch where they are creating so much content, they don't have an outlet. I can at least be a catalyst in this whole process of discovery and creating this format of short films more popular. And we've stuck to our guns since 2009 in distributing short films. We still do. And in fact, the screenshot that you shared, Chand, as an introduction, is actually, we've just launched 3 weeks ago, our own OTT platform for short films. So the idea is to build a platform which kind of focuses on this format of content. So I'll be very upfront here. I have zero creative bone in my body. If you ask me, I cannot make a short film. But I feel that format of content has so much potential. Plus the uniqueness of and the ability of the creator to actually express himself and tell a story which does not need to, as Suresh mentioned a while earlier, does not need to conform to any mass metric, but can just be that creator's individual vision. So the idea was to take that, and even if it's a small audience that we are able to get for a particular film, so be it. We just want to see that if the small by the creator himself defines that small as say a couple of thousand, can we redefine that small for him as a few 100,000? That was our intent, that let's take the content far and wide. Let's make it, people don't know short films. So what is the best way to create awareness? Take it to people. And since the internet and then mobile was coming in, we were always trying to stay in that loop, that let us take our content to where people are. I mean, in that process, we've even had a show on TV for short films, which went on for 3 years. Last year, we even did an experiment with PVR Wakao, where we released anthologies of short films across 6 cities all over India. So running like a 90-minute slot of 6 short films. Let's face it, and being very honest, the theatrical experience was not a financially viable one. But the intent, and we knew that. So it was not like we were taken by surprise. We knew it is going to be difficult, but we wanted to take that step, and we had PVR to support us for that, is let's put across a new format to a certain new audience. Audience will take their own time to adapt to this, because one thing we know for sure, that the limited number of people who came to the theaters, they were like, oh, we've never seen something like this. In 90 minutes, you've given us 6 great stories. Wow. So it is just that still, I mean, as much as short films are the buzzword today in the online ecosystem, there is still a large part of the audience which still is not exposed to this format. And that's where our aim is, to keep on expanding the whole pie. And then hopefully we can make our piece of the pie from there. And as I said, for every revenue that we make from every avenue that we take the short film to, we will share it with our creators. So that's something that we've always focused on. Like Hotstar, for example, has been fantastic, and it took off during the lockdown. As the lockdown had started, was just the period when we started putting our content out on Hotstar. And it has been really well accepted on Hotstar. And if I may actually say so, I think even the people at Hotstar were very happy and positively surprised by the acceptance of short films as a format that was there on their platform. So I personally feel that, the storytelling is so strong in short films. It's much, much better than most of the so-called mainstream films that we see. So that content has the ability to pull. We just need to ensure that, we are getting people to that content. We know that once they come there, they are going to watch it more often than not.
I think with the digital avenues opening up more, I was talking to a few of my friends in film fraternity where even large scale producers have created digital offshoots of their own company to look at this as a specific genre, like as a specific format or a medium of storytelling, which could be the seed for something longer, maybe later on in that way. Suresh, while running a studio, have you ever thought that you can make a short film which can then become a long format, or no, your focus is a short and
Yeah.
you never think in that way?
No, I never looked at making a short and expanding it into a feature or something. But I always feel this is also a great learning experience to work on a feature, because when you work on lengths, see, because we work on 1 minute and 30 seconds and stuff, right? We condense the story into shortest possible time in advertising. But working on a 10 or 15-minute film, you kind of understand the dynamics of time, how much time to give, what is the where is the silence, how silence is playing a role, how no action is playing a role. All those things you learn a lot with short film making. And you can experiment in a with multiple mediums. That's what excited me a lot. Like none of our short films done are in one particular medium. If it is one is in 2D, there's another one in 3D, or then stop motion. So that also gives me a platform. And I'm working on features, but for feature I would be looking at a different medium altogether. So it is never, while it is a stepping stone towards doing a feature, the priorities are very different when I'm making a short film. The priorities when I'm making a feature would definitely be a mass. It should work with the masses. I would definitely think if I make a feature, it's a larger responsibility. It is, feature can change the industry and the perceptions in a very big way. Short films have a very, it has a very different sort of impact in a very savvy audience, amongst a very savvy audience. So while making short films, it's always focus is to get it as good as it we can manage to. And yeah, like 8 years for a film and all, it's something that I've learned by that's not the way to do things, by doing it only. Like, I mean, if I'm
But do you see that? I mean,
it never take 8 years to do it. Yeah. Huh?
When you travel to all your festivals, let's say a more mature geography where you have more short films being made, do you see people taking 8 years to do it, or
No.
the ecosystem is why and how?
Different
Can it be
ecosystem.
compared?
John, see, if I'm telling you, for a short filmmaker in Europe and stuff, you may get, like, for a 10-minute or 12-minute film, you may get up to a couple of crores as funding. A person doesn't have to think about anything else but just he doesn't have to worry about his living. He doesn't have to worry about his bills. He can just make short film, but he has to win that grant. There are many people who are applying for the grant, and it's not just one country, multiple countries in the Europe kind of supply. It's reduced now, but still it's a huge number. Where can you imagine that sort of a number in India? For somebody to sit and make a short film, which is not going to yield you instant money. None of the international, whether it's Arte or any of the French, or they are not making money. That's not their intent. But their intent is to, like, create this extravagant art which could become a movement. Why they spend on artists, on give fellowships and all these things, and nurture artists. You never know when a Picasso would be grown. So their investments are into art in a very different way. But it's not somewhere our priority yet, because art and culture is not, they are not yet our priority. But this is the solid foundation of art and culture.
Yeah,
And
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not our priority, whether it's the commercial side of the industry or the government side promoting maybe the art and culture side, that we don't have the ecosystem in there.
We don't have, I mean, like, a person has to struggle. I mean, today, even when I'm talking to young animators, I'm saying that, struggle and make it is what I'm telling. It's not the right way to do it, but that's the only way short films can happen in this country.
I think if I may just weigh there, like many people have asked me, why is it that we are doing it? And when I've gone to film markets like Cannes and all, and I have spoken to people, and they're often surprised to know that I don't have any kind of a government funding or a grant to
Yeah,
run a company which is doing short films. And I said, no, that is a very alien concept in India.
yeah.
In India, we don't survive because of the government. We survive despite the government. We just work.
Exactly.
Our focus is on doing the work, not figuring out how I can get a grant. Because we know that's going to be difficult. And frankly speaking, even I understand as a country where we are, we still have a lot other more immediate concerns which the government needs to address before they can start investing and supporting somebody's vision for art, which a very few people will appreciate.
But the deal is
There is no debate or question whether they should or should not do it. It is our government is probably faced with a certain scenario that whether to provide the basic necessities to a certain audience, certain citizens, or whether to allow this. It's a difficult situation. It's a different situation. And instead of trying to put a comment on that, I said the mindset of Indians per se is that they will just go out there and do it. And actually, when filmmakers ask me, sir, paise nahi hai, main kya karu? I said, kuch nahi. Start on it. Nike से borrow करता हूँ. Just do it. शुरू करो, कहीं ना कहीं कैसे ना कैसे तुम्हारी फिल्म बन जाएगी. Because you can't keep on hoping for an environment where the government will fund, say, forget a crore, even 50 lakhs for all budding artists to make their short films. I mean, that we are looking for a utopian time. Let us not wait for it. We may not be there to see that day probably. So you just have to make do with what you have. And fortunately, I have seen that, we are, and particularly the creative community is resourceful enough to make things work to ultimately achieve their objective of making that film that they want to make. It may be a difficult journey. As you said, it has to be a struggle.
Yeah.
But I think they do make it. I mean, that is the only way to do it.
Yeah. Samir, the biggest difference comes when it is about animation short film.
Oh.
You may be talking about live action short films, which is okay to somebody to give a day to act, or an editor to give a couple of 1 week to, but in animation, a person has to devote years to make an animation. And so this is a different sort of that person, when you're asking that person to struggle, it's a different sort of struggle. Mm-hmm. A live action short, you can shoot it and you can finish it off as long as your story is correct. Only investment is your time. And asking a few more people for their time. Here, you are locking yourself along with many people. It's not something that you can do alone anyway. If you do it alone, it will take years and years. So you are asking everybody to work under a different sort of duress for that sort of time. Yes, we are doing it. We have to do it, and that's the only way animation can. So and what I would, it's a different deviation that the government priority. I feel even Polish government, not very rich government, they all have funds. It's just that they find a very important balance between the how art and culture have an influence on people's lives. People are not rich. They are not, normal people are not rich. They have difficulties, but there is a fine balance of understanding of what art and culture, and they also give relief in a different sort of a way, and sensibilities. It's an overall evolution of a crowd together.
It's an evolution of an economy and an ecosystem,
and a cultural system.
Culturally, yes, it is very important. And again, the value of culture or art and culture, as we may look at it from that point of view, I think that is very different there and here.
Yeah,
and it's a process of evolution.
Yeah. And a good example that you can look at is Japan. They don't have all this government support.
Yeah.
They have no government support for any of the short films, and it is all individuals who are. But there are companies who back them up. There are people who have come up to a level like yourself, Samir. There are people who have come up and supporting the ecosystem in a very different way. It's all about animation. The live action is still a lot of thriving people who Anurag does one short film, there will be a huge amount of hue and cry about it. People will fund it, whether or not it's a great script or something. So there are, even there, there are these biases. But in animation, it's something that people don't want to. The starting point is animation is cartoon. So we have a lot of hard work, groundwork that we need to do there, which is, I think, a basic problem. And more people making films like Upmanyu, Bimal, and everyone, all of us, that will only kind of create, that is sowing the seed for more people to get inspired and do things, which is happening, fortunately.
Yeah. If you start at the seed, Prasenjit, what do you think are the aspirations of the student animator? How can we change? And I'm not talking about only one NID or one Whistling Woods or one graduation film school. With the hundreds of animation students out there, how do we change the perception of making a short film is not the same as making a show reel? Like Samir said, initially it was just a show reel. How do we affect the aspiration of the student animator, which then can flood market with opportunity is there, right? People are making short films, but most of the short films are made as reels, like Suresh knows, right? So how do you think, Prasenjit, is there? What is the aspiration for the students? What has been your experience?
You see, there are two sides to it. One is why, one of the answers to what you asked earlier is, why do we make a film? It's because there's something I want to say. There's something that is brewing inside of me, or through my observation, through whatever is happening around, or what I feel strongly for. Like Upmanyu felt very strongly for the environment he made Wade. Bimal felt very strongly about his roots, about a relationship. He wanted to say it, so he said. Suresh felt something about this little child and the life, so he wanted to say it. So that seed that needs to be planted about the short film needs a soil which is fertile enough to be planted in. Sometimes I think we ignore that soil part and we look at what seed we are putting on that, whether it's a short film or a feature film. So there are these people, there is this bunch of mad people, like many of us here, who want to make films, and it has to come from within. That call has to come from within. I think in our scenario, like you must have also experienced it, there are lots and lots and lots of animation schools. They teach animation. They even use, quite daringly so sometimes, they use the word film in it. They use the word design in it, and none of them exist, very honestly, because that has not been their priority. People who have started those schools, that was not their priority. There was priority of a software which somebody has to learn to fit into a certain ecosystem that is prevalent, which is not right or wrong, but that is how it has been. So we did not have a formative years of animation, as you can say. We just jumped. We wanted to make something like some other country is making. It's almost like, without doing your PT, your physical exercises, you thought running 100 meters is great. Hey, why not run a marathon? So forget doing PT, forget doing jogging, or at least getting to understand what this is about. We chased something else. And to chase something else, you have to create that infrastructure. So you have these schools popping up, ki mujhe thoda animation karke do, mujhe thoda rigging karke do, mujhe da, 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 da. All that is happening. Now we are talking about aesthetics, we are talking about feelings, we are talking about something that will, convey a certain emotion to an audience and move them. But that cannot happen en masse. You cannot expect that to happen en masse. So students, people, individuals who want to tell stories, they will tell their stories. Come what may, come what medium, they'll find their right mediums. They'll find live action or animation or comics or graphic novels or motion posters. They will tell their stories out, come what may. And like what we also do is, like most of our panelists here have said that, I mentioned, we cannot make short films a mainstay of our livelihood. That is almost a very utopian thought. We cannot do that. So a lot of us are working on other formats. We are writing films, or we are directing films of a longer format. But at the same time, we know there are some people who can vibe with that thought of wanting to make, wanting to create, wanting to give birth to an idea. So that's I think how it is happening. And like I said, for short films are getting made. How can we inculcate that? It's just the diet. It's about the diet. Whatever you eat, you become that. It means what you consume to become a part of your system becomes you. So if we expose young animators to the magic of films, they will learn to make films. And doesn't short or long doesn't initially matter. It is just to discover the fact that, okay, I can have my way of a creation come out there and express. It is just about wanting to express. And when you realize that this moving picture along with sound and music and this magic, that magic becomes a part of you, you want to make it. And that's the only thing we can do. Make more films so that more people are excited about making this. That's what we are doing. I think within our classes, also within our courses, I think wherever we go, we try to share the work that we have done and others are doing right now. In fact, right now also, even what I'm doing is I follow more students from foreign schools than professionals on the social media, because I'm very keen to know what they are studying. And I was just sharing with a close friend of mine, Vaibhav, today that I do exercises that those guys are doing there. So somebody is learning to do speed painting, so I'll check out that Instagram post. Acha, unhone aise kiya hai, chalo main bhi try karta hu. So I enjoy doing that. So I will continue to do that. And for just inculcating this whole culture of storytelling, I think it should start over there. It should not just get bland. We can just do away with the remote control for some time and just talk to each other. I think that is fantastic. I think that's the way we can get somewhere.
Upanyo, are you making your next film?
Yeah, we have a bunch of other short films. Again, it comes from a compulsion, really, that you have things you want to say. So we are doing that. We are working on some long format ones as well within the studio. It's a nice team of people who enjoy working together, and we were friends first. So, yeah.
So, what is the stage? And this is for Bimal and Upanyu both, because we both have studios at different level and stages. And I always wanted to know, I try to figure it out myself as well, and Suresh knows it more than anyone else here. At what stage do you realize that as a bunch of friends try to making your own film, you make that shift and change, I have to pay bills also, so let me stop this short film, run the bills, make the ads or service work or anything else, whether it's an ad or a film or something else, and keep it in the back burner and then keep doing it over the period of as long as 8 years, as Suresh said. We'll start with Bimal and then we'll ask Upanyu. Do you think you have started getting a feel for there? I'm not going to ask you how old are you. Don't worry about that. But you might as well think that when you reach that phase after we hear Bimal, what do you think you will do?
Running a studio is a very difficult task. I mean, when you think about your overheads, your plates are never full. So whenever we get offered, like we get commission job, we have to do. So in between, whenever we get time, and for this film, after you finish, halfway, then you realize, no, I have to finish this now. So after that, we started, maintaining a schedule. Then, okay, we have to finish this section within this month or whatever. So, yeah. So, yeah, in between, we just fit in, basically. So work is our first priority always. I mean, whatever we get, the regular work. And yeah, this is our passion. I mean, so out of passion, out of our, curiosity, you can say, like we'll have to do something. We'll have to, return something towards your teachers. What knowledge you gathered from this profession. It's not, we have learned a lot of things. I'm not a inborn animator or not an inborn artist. So whatever we have learned, somewhere you have to do your own work, which is you're sharing your own knowledge to the medium.
Yeah. Upmanyu, what do you think? Would you like to keep continuing shorts, because you never know, maybe there would be a platform or a medium or a way, or would you like to keep doing things like this, or where do you see you would pause and focus on something maybe which will be more commercial?
We have no idea really, because it's the opposite for us in the sense that we came together because everyone had a kind of thesis of their own that they wanted to do, and it was just standing over each other's shoulders saying, how can I help? Then what can I do? Can I do a part of whatever it is you're doing? So and that too, it's very diverse. Like one fellow in our studio, he's working on a game, so he's doing that. So the best thing to do is to just figure out how you can help him out, and if everyone has time to come together for something else, like let's say a music video, which gives us some amount of practice with our authorial skills as well. So I don't know when it's a little non-studio like in that sense. It's more of a collective of people doing their thing, and in between, if we want to come together for things which we also want to make additionally, that's what we do sometimes. So it's much more free flowing. So as long as we don't run out of things that we want to do ourselves, we won't have a problem, I think.
I think the points that I can clearly see and from the panel overall is at 3 stages: at the stage of education and at the stage of, I think, colleges and institute, whether it's for filmmakers like Suresh and Prasenjit and Bimal, and even upon you to go back to your alma mater and then re-inspire, which has been going on in the last 20 years, but to keep pushing that volume of films being coming up, and maybe try to have that quality up, while parallelly maybe producers of studios like Suresh's, like ours, platforms like Samir, and I don't know if it is there for live action films, but if there are grants around, then how can we consolidate it and create one place, maybe, you know, some place like you have Pocket Films, like similar, you something, create an FAQ where you say, okay, these are the places you get grants. These are the places where you can apply. Because I do know for live action, I know lots of friends who have got the grants and made films. Maybe people can apply for that. Maybe Samir, you can look at, if you get an access to a bigger bunch of animated short films, in what format and how can this be given to an audience where people can go to you. That's something to think about, I think. As we're approaching towards the last 10 minutes of a session, I just thought maybe you could take some takeaway points from the discussion today and have this as open questions to ponder about and propose answers. Sabir, do you think that's a viable opportunity? Do you feel that animation short films can have an independent platform of their own? Do you think there is an audience for it?
I definitely think, it's all about a matter of actually going in, your belief in it and then wanting to do it. So let's face it, 10 years ago, live action short films had no visible possibility of becoming, even half as popular as what they are today. But it was just that it was made, people were making, it was available, it went up to people, and then it got a wind of its own. Now, whether that takes 1 year, whether that takes 3 years, whether that takes 5 years, nobody knows that. But I think it is important that good content keeps on getting made and that good content keeps on getting exposed to a certain audience. Like you yourself mentioned earlier, your daughter saw Tokri today or yesterday, and her perception about animation has changed. So I think as a community, from animation point of view, what bigger hurdle, I would say the first inbuilt hurdle that you all have to overcome is animation is not cartoon. I think that is one thing which one needs to get across, and that can change only through content which tells stories, content which engage with audiences. So if we are getting that content, an audience today is definitely going to consume. The audience is hungry, and that's my experience. Audience is hungry for good content, and in whichever format you give it to them, as long as you give it to them which engages them. So I think, and as Pocket Films, from our side, we are definitely open to looking at animation. We're happy to push animation. I know it is going to be challenging, but it's in our DNA to take that up, push that good content, and we will try our best to push it forward. in as many platforms and wherever we can. What commercially benefits we can do out of it, we don't know yet. But our model is straightforward. We will be sharing. So that will be transparency. Whatever we make, we'll share. But the important part is that we need to create, we need to have that much volume of animation. See, and it's not that I've not tried to get animation on board over these years. What has happened is that, you know, if I get one or two or three good films here and there, it's not a volume large enough to make any kind of lasting impact. But when we get more content which is of a certain standard and where we can consistently engage a certain audience to say that here, you know, you like animation, here we can give you some good animation content. That's when those interests become habits and it leads to more consumption. I think it's just ability to be able to give more content. I mean, of course, hearing you guys, I understand that creating an animation film is a completely different journey. But I mean, over the years as Pocket Films, we've maintained a release rate of almost one new short film every day.
Oh.
Now, that is because so much content is being made, we are getting it, and we are able to push it out to audiences. What is happening is that over the years that it is a habit formation for people to see that there is content available and it's not going to die off today. So after I watch it for 5 days, it's not like I'm going to be stuck for that content. Even if not one a day, but even if we can reach a stage where at least one new animation film is coming out every week on the platform, then it makes a sense and a logistical case, you know, for people to come onto that platform to consume good animation content.
Yeah.
I had something to add. I think it's great, Samir, that you're doing this. And I think I have never heard of Pocket Films, which is my ignorance. We had to approach a lot of international people for our distribution. Like short film, our Tokri got released by Short of the Week. I mean, there is a criterion. They select films, and then only they release a film every week or something. And Short of the Week through Vimeo, and then Vimeo did a staff pick of the film. But in India, we have tried to talk to, there's that another company which released some animation film. I think Death of the Father was released by
Royal Stag.
Yeah, Royal Stag. Yeah.
Large short films, yeah.
They don't entertain at all. So, in the sense, they don't even respond to your calls. I mean, that we are not like people on the road or something, So they're really sad sort of a thing. So we approached internationally and it's got released. Now there are more international companies approaching us to release it on their own. And all of them are doing non-exclusive deals with us. Nobody's saying that, you have to give us exclusivity. Everybody is saying we'll give you non-exclusive thing. You want to take it down any day, you just tell us and we'll take it down.
Yeah. I think that we have to reach that level of maturity. Upman, you have to say something.
Yeah, just like a small thing to add. I think there's also something to be said again from personal experience about some old school methods as well. So what we did was when we finished 4 short films, we just went on tour like a band or like a stand-up comedian would. We just went to venues. We said, here are tickets for sale. Come watch 1.5 hours of animation. And like we played in 11 cities, 28 venues, we sold out. So like there is also something to be said about just getting onto the street again, meeting your audience, seeing what they think. There will be a lot of people who will come up to you and say that made no sense. And that's interesting. That's also
funny. You paid for it or what? You paid for all those screenings?
But we made ticket revenue. So
but you actually invested, right?
Not really, because a lot of the venues, when they said, okay, this is interesting, just give us a revenue sharing kind of a thing. So like different venues did different things. We didn't pay rent at any venue per se.
Oh, great.
So someone said we want 70-30, someone said we want 80-20. As in, that was an experience in itself, because again, that was entirely done in-house in terms of we didn't have a management agency handling that or anything. But again, that was it's another option, like beyond thinking of constructing virtual platforms and stuff like that, we can set up a screen and play films just like we used to. And people respond, people come and have fun. So
We are really out of time, but I think Upmanyu and Sameer and Suresh have answered a question we got from. So Ratul Laich, if you are listening, you had asked a question: how to improve the comic ecosystem to motivate individual local comic creators located remotely. Clarity, remuneration, negotiation, collaboration. I think you heard part of all of those. Just ping Upmanyu from new school methods of how to distribute. Ping Sameer if you want to look at how they are encouraging filmmakers to come to their platform. Reach out to any of us, and especially Suresh has so much of experience in sending his films to so many festivals. He had asked another question of how many of you have made a short film inspired by an Indian indie comic. I would request if you can maybe put it up to the CII group, because we have the next panelist waiting for us for his next session.
Also, Chand, just to, I think CII also is doing something to set up a grant or some sort of a forum to encourage. I was told by CII, ABGC chair Biren, that they are setting up something like that. So there is some work, very positive work happening on that front, is what I.
Yes. So both me and Biren are working towards it. In fact, the reason why I wanted this session was to have this recorded out for
which is so fantastic. It's a great.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We're looking at. You know how things like this work.
Yeah, it is.
The need has to be out there.
To have an initiative like that. I mean, it's very.
It's fantastic to see this happen and take off at a certain point. And anytime you need any kind of inputs from any of us, or anyway, we'll be more than happy to come and make sure that it takes shape.
Yeah, it's a fantastic initiative. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, CII team. Thank you, Sameer, Upmanyu, Prasanjit, and Suresh, and thank you, Webhub Kumresh, because he was the one who I discussed with him, and this group has come up because of some tips and tricks that I got from him. He could have been fabulous on this panel as well, right? Thank you. Thank you so
Chand.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure being here.
Good to see everyone.